Welcome everyone. Today I want to paint some vegetables with ink and watercolor. I feel like this is not a very popular subject matter, or at least not in the style of line and wash, but I quite like how the sketchbook spread turned out. And I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to start with refilling my fountain pen and doing some very simple warm-up exercises. And I want to take the chance to chat a bit about YouTube or the internet lately. I don't know if you noticed, but YouTube decided to put more ads in videos. Normally creators can choose where to put ads, but YouTube is starting to slide in some extras. I don't know how I feel about that as a creator. So right now I don't place any mid ads on my videos. I only have them in the start and the end. I noticed that sometimes the ads will start playing even less than 2 minutes into the videos, which is a bit extreme in my opinion. I could get premium obviously, but I actually prefer to spend that money on Patreon to directly support the creators without ads being involved. So lately I just feel like the internet is different and I'm not even sure where I want to hang out anymore. I do want to watch more YouTube videos like I used to, but I noticed myself before clicking on a new video, I started to question, like, do I really have nothing better to do? Or are these videos really gonna worth watching the ads for? And that makes me question whether if I should spend hours of my time creating videos here. It's just a very depressing thought. I do feel really sorry to start the video on such an unpleasant note. That's not intentional. I'm still very grateful for all your support, and I do want to keep building the connections in the artist community here to share my experience and how I like to learn things. I am also very touched by you guys telling me about your pets and your friend that I remind you of. That is just so sweet. Those comments always make me feel super happy. That was one thing that I found out since I started making videos here, is that people are so nice, like shockingly nice. Because I often hear about how people can be mean or unhinged on the internet, and I'm so grateful that my viewers, you guys, are so supportive and kind. So I'm not going to stop making videos. In fact, I really want to make more. I wish I'm more organized and able to be consistent, but that's just not who I am. I've always been struggling with deadlines and things like that. But anyway, I will try to get better. I have been posting a bit more on Cara these days, and I also try to make more shorts. I noticed that most creators here have a combination of long and short form videos, so maybe that's something I could try. I don't really know what I'm trying to say here. It's just some random thoughts I had lately. I guess it's because I very often use YouTube as background sound, like when I'm doing sketches or knitting. But now I have to manually skip the ads or adjust the volume too often. I feel like I might as well just be listening to the radios instead. And I'm quite curious how you feel about this. Have you noticed any changes? Oh, and I've also been scanning in some of my older works and sketchbooks. I'm trying to find a platform where I can upload them as a portfolio. Ideally, it would be nice if I can also make blog posts there. I think that sounds very fun, but it's also going to take quite a lot of time. The exercises that I'm doing here are mostly just to loosen up, to remember how it feels to use fountain pen. Sometimes when I don't use them for a few days, my hand and eye coordination gets a bit wacky, so it's good to do some pattern drawings like these. It's like I have to be very intentional with where my lines are going, but also at the same time, I don't need to worry about the accuracy or proportions. It's just very relaxing and therapeutic. I really like to do this when I don't feel motivated. It is still so much better than not doing anything at all. The next day I felt more ready to do some actual drawing. I actually filmed this process in 3 days. On the second day I did the ink drawing and then painted the watercolor on the third day. It's nice to divide the task onto different days when I'm not feeling motivated. I started with a hard pencil to roughly sketch out where the vegetables will be. When I was planning this spread and gathering reference images, I thought I could fit more items here. I had some mushrooms and artichoke, but then I realized they don't all fit. I don't want to draw very tiny vegetables. I want them to be almost life-sized, or at least big enough for some details. The celery on the left is certainly not life-sized. That would be way too big for this sketchbook. And this is one of my bigger sketchbooks, about 8 by 10 inches. I made it with hahnemule hot press paper. I actually filmed how I made the cover for this sketchbook using the original cover paper from the pad. But then I realized the light was flickering the whole time, so unfortunately I cannot post that video. But I will be making a similar one with Saunders Waterford, so stay tuned for that. For inking, I'm using Sailor's Fude Nib 40-degree ink pen. I have been loving this pen lately. It is cheaper than my twisbi pen and has more line variations than my Lamy Safari. So when I go outside to sketch, I like to bring this one with me. I can be kind of clumsy sometimes, and I really don't want to drop the more expensive ones outside. The celery I'm drawing right now is the only vegetable with packaging on the spread. I'm not quite sure why they always come in plastic bags. Maybe they're not like this in other countries, but I thought that's something interesting to paint. I decided not to draw the plastic bag with the fountain pen because I think it's too hard to describe that with lines. They're too transparent and delicate. I'd rather use watercolor to indicate that. But I like how the label, the barcode, looks in ink drawing. Now I'm going to leave you with some music and come back when I start using the watercolor. Now this is day 3 and I'm starting to color the sketches. I tend to be more playful in this stage since the structure is already there. So I don't have to be very precise, but I still need to pay attention to the value. I am kind of experimenting with a new approach here that I'm not trying to copy the color of reference photo because I think too much realism can be a bit boring, especially on a sketchbook spread like this. The reference photos I found, they all have different lighting, different environment colors that influence their local colors. So if I truthfully copy the colors of the image, I don't think they will look like they belong, like sitting on the same space. So this time I'm also using some colors from my memory. I just look at my color chart and think about which color remind me of this vegetable. I guess this is a combination of 3 different aspects. The reference photo is one. Mostly I copy the value and temperature of the reference photo. The second aspect is from how I remember this vegetable look like. And the third one is a bit more difficult to explain. It's me imagining what colors would look nice on this page. So this step I actually started before I did the drawing. I know I want to include all the colors from the rainbow, and there are 2 green vegetables, so I want to keep them separated. I also wanted to use very, very vibrant colors, like almost in a cartoonish way. I think there's something very graphic and fun about that. Here I'm using aqua rose to get that super vibrant purple color for the turnip. I tried a few different alternatives, but none of them really come close to that brightness of aqua rose. None of them can really match the vibrancy, especially in color mixes. Here I'm using it to mix with Winsor violet, and it's pretty much the exact color of the turnip. For the tomatoes, I'm mixing the reddest red on my palette, which is pyrrole scarlet from Daniel Smith. I'm using this color to mix together with transparent pyrrole orange. When I think about the colors of tomato, in my memory, they're often the combination of orange and very, very bright red. I don't think I've ever seen them being pink or peach colored, but the less ripe ones can look a bit green or yellowish, so that's what I'm going for. I have seen other artists using a bluish purple color on the shadow part of tomato. I tried it here as well, you'll see that in a minute. It's very easy to make it look moldy though, so it's probably not the best to directly paint the blue on the paper. I think I would prefer to mix them on the palette first, and I did come back on the second layer to kind of cover that up a little bit. The special thing about the tomato here is that it has a very smooth, very reflective surface. Vegetables with more rough skin or matted surface like potatoes and blueberries, they're not going to have such bright highlights. I personally think it looks nicer when you can tell the difference between different textures, so that's why I don't want to put highlights on everything. For the potatoes, as I remember, their color is pale and golden, but with almost no orange in them, sometimes even slightly green. And sometimes they can also have some pink spots, depending on the type. I'm just going to keep it very simple here. I'm using Jump Brilliant Dark, a little bit gold yellow, and lots of water. I want to keep the looseness and also to keep the value very light and pale. Since they already have a dark outline, they don't need a lot of details or shadows to read as potatoes. It's the same thing with cucumbers. There's nothing complicated about it. In my mind, they are a bit darker and more bluish compared to celery. But here, I don't want to paint them so dark that the green would cover up the ink lines. I still want them to look very tender and fresh. And I intentionally caused some blotchy marks by using lots of water on the second layer. I want to use those marks to indicate the bumpy surface of the cucumbers. For the carrots, I'm just going to use my most vibrant orange paints, which is transparent pyrrole orange. It is a very, very strong color, which is what I want here. Since I'm using a fair amount of water too, it's going to dry a bit more natural and subdued. And later I'll come back using the same color to darken some parts of them. I also made sure to add some variations with the red colors on my palette, like the leftover colors of tomatoes and also some sap greens, just to create a little bit variation here and there so that they don't look so flat. I only used 2 colors to paint the blueberries, the blue lavender color from Kissho and also indanthrene blue from Winsor Newton. I very often use this combination for evening sky and clouds. I'm a bit surprised how well they represent the matte and powdery look of the blueberries. When everything on the first layer is fully dried, I'm going back to paint the second layer. For the celery, I'm using some old leftover dirty blue on my palette. I added lots of water to paint the shapes of the plastic bag and also darkening some places with hard edges. For the stems of tomatoes, I'm using mostly sap green and deep sap green. The stems are usually a bit dry when the tomatoes are ripe, so it's okay to use more darker and more muted greens. For the potatoes, I don't think they need any new colors, so I just used what I used the first time, but in a slightly thicker consistency to paint some of the spots and dimples on them. After that, I feel like the spread is basically done. Just a few more details on the carrots. I'm painting across the form, so it shows that this is a cylinder kind of shape. And then all they're left to do is to put down all the colors that I used so that I remember how I mix the colors for future reference. So that is the end of this video. Thank you so much for watching till the very end. Cannot wait to see you in the next one. Goodbye.